Hello, everyone, and welcome to
Full Time to Travel Time.
We have a very exciting guest today, someone who's been a friend of ours for many years that we're super excited to have in the podcast studio. Kim, can you introduce our famous guest?
I am so excited to introduce our famous guest, Anne Lorimor. Thank you for coming on the show today. We're really excited.
Glad to be here.
But let's tell everyone about you, of what I think I do know about you. So Anne Lorimor is an author, an adventurer, and a philanthropist who holds a Guinness World Record as the oldest person to summit Mount Kilimanjaro. Not once, but twice. She's climbed mountains all over the world, including several 14ers here in the U.S., Machu Picchu, and even Australia's...
Ayers Park.
Thank you.
Ayers Peak.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I knew I'd butcher the name regardless. And that was back when Australia permitted you to climb that one too. But Anne's story isn't just about conquering peaks. It's about lifting others as well. She's the founder of the amazing nonprofit Creating Exciting Futures, which is dedicated to helping underprivileged youth unlock their potential. Her life has recently been featured in an award-winning, I can say that now, in an award-winning documentary film called Anne Everlasting. And today she joins us to share the lessons, the leaps, and the legacy behind this exciting journey. I'm like getting caught up over my words already because I'm excited. So thank you, Anne. We're super excited to ask you a bunch of questions about your life today.
And I'll be happy to answer.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we met Anne, it's got to be like 7 years ago at least now.
Yeah.
We met her at a very awesome networking community, shout out Alliances in Arizona here. And, you know, honestly, the first time I met you, I was kind of blown away. And I remember we actually, you were one of the first people that I, like, set up a meeting with out of Alliances. Like,
I remember we went to, like, the mall together, and you were wearing a hot pink shirt.
We went to Fashion Square Mall, bringing back the hot pink shirt today, which was awesome. And, just really kind of just blown away by your passion, your drive.
Your go-getterness. Yeah.
So, you know, I know you've accomplished some amazing things, obviously becoming the oldest person ever to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. When did you really realize that, like, you were an adventurer?
I don't know. I've always felt that I was adventuresome, but I've said many times I'm not a professional climber. I loved climbing since I was a little girl, but I thought if I can combine my love of climbing and my desire to get support for my kids, then I'd do that, and it would be great.
That sounds like a great lifestyle. And I guess we should ask the most obvious question now, too, right, Isaac?
Yeah, go ahead.
How does it feel, Anne, to be a movie star?
Well, I tell you, I'm beginning to feel a little bit that they do, because everybody was coming up and talk to me, and I'd sit down to read a book or something, and they'll all come. So you want to be nice to your fans, so I did.
For now, at least, right? until you're that big, and then you're like, please give me my space. You're gonna have like the shades on and the hood over your head.
Anne is always gonna be saying hi to fans.
I know.
I like to be accessible. I do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And in regards to your movie, Anne Everlasting, which I'm so grateful, Isaac and I got an opportunity to see it because it was not only sold out all 3 days of Phoenix Film Festival, but it even sounds like you guys added another day. And that was sold out too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
But how does it feel for you? I mean, watching a film about your own life must be kind of surreal. What emotions come up when you watched your own film?
I was just blown away by the expertise of the director. I felt that she was wanting to do a good film, so I cooperated and answered any question she asked. But I didn't expect a lot of it to be used. I thought it would just be background to let her know more about me, to what to choose to put out. But she did it beautifully. And there's things I probably have never told anybody in my life. And some people that have known me forever say, well, I learned a lot about you. So, okay.
Wow.
I mean, I'm out there now because I care about my cause, and if that's what it takes, that's what I'll do.
I love that. You mentioned that in the movie, too. It's like, well, Zaina wants to film a question again. I got to go over here and answer it. It's such a real, authentic movie of, like, a real-life experience. It didn't feel like it was a movie that's directed and like not real, I guess, if that makes sense.
It doesn't feel phony, does it?
Yeah,
she just got to what I might say is the real me.
Yeah.
Well, and I found myself tearing up during it. I found myself laughing during it. You know, I found myself in awe during it. I mean, that's what a good movie does, you know? So, you know, it's really amazing.
And Zaina says that there are points in it, well, she still cries when she sees it.
Aw, that's because she got to experience it from a whole different perspective, too. Like, shout out to Zaina. She did an incredible job putting this film together.
Fantastic job.
And learned how to climb a mountain in the process.
Yes, because she'd never climbed before.
Yeah.
Has she climbed anything before?
Apparently
I
not.
talked to her about it. She'd never really climbed before. This is her first climb was Mount Kilimanjaro, which is
Extremely courageous
Yeah,
of
That's
her.
very
wild. She's like, you know
amazing.
what? She was as determined as you were about your cause, about her cause. I think
Yes.
maybe that's why you guys have so much great chemistry together. She's like, I'm determined. I'm going to make this film happen.
Yes,
Yeah.
she's wonderful, I think.
And so I really wanted to ask you, for me, mountains are like kind of spiritual for me. Like they really like make such a huge impact. And, for us, like climbing some of our mountains really changed our lives. Climbing Mount Pikachu together, our first climb, Kim and I. And,
Picacho Peak.
and like we had never
That's a good
climbed,
one.
we had never really
Difficult.
climbed a mountain before. And it like,
That was tough as one of our
Yes.
first ones.
It was
tough.
it was tough, and
Yeah.
but it almost like opened up the door to like, wow, this is amazing. And
Yes.
so I know you've climbed quite a few mountains. You've climbed multiple 14ers here in the U.S., including Pikes Peak, which we've
Yeah.
just driven to the top of. We haven't climbed that.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And the that famous rock in Australia,
Ayers Rock,
Ayers
yes.
Rock,
Right.
which I lived a year in Australia, and I didn't even get to go out there because it's so isolated. I mean, it is a far away from anything. What when you're climbing these mountains, what do you learn about yourself, and how does it inspire you?
There's something in the scripture that says, I shall lift up mine eyes into the hills, from whence cometh my help. And that's always spoken to me. And I just feel that they do. I feel them internally. I really love climbing mountains.
Yeah.
And love being in forests, anything of nature I love a great deal. And as I said, being able to combine my passion for climbing with my passion for kids was wonderful.
Yeah, amazing. And I know for Kim and I, we are not your typical mountain climbers, right? I have asthma. Kim actually, when you first met Kim, had steel bars in her chest.
Right, that was my nickname in the group, right? The networking group. I was Bionic Woman. That's how I was
Woman.
introduced every time.
And so we hike mountains a bit slower than most people, but we always complete them. We get to the top, and you obviously, as you're aging, you might be moving a little bit slower, but that doesn't mean you're not getting to the top, and you're not, you are accomplishing these things. How does it, does it feel as you're, getting older? Obviously, things may be a little bit more challenging, but does that make like the summit even more rewarding?
I don't know about that, but I do know that I tell people up front, I said, I'm not setting any speed records anymore, only age records. When I was younger, I always led the pack,
Yeah.
and I miss that. But on the other hand, I get a great deal of enjoyment out of climbing still.
Absolutely.
And I
very
mean,
cool.
in addition to that too, like you always love pushing boundaries. Like this sounds like even after watching Anne Everlasting, I feel like this has been like your internal motive even since you were younger too. But what drives you to keep doing what many would consider like too hard, or it's too late for me to do this because I'm too old, or climbing Mount Kilimanjaro is considered hard?
I have a motto that it's never too late to learn and grow. Now, I've made some adaptations, and then John Muir was on my side. He said, you should amble, not speed through life. So I agree with that.
Oh, we
But-
agree with anything John Muir says.
Yeah.
So.
But anything that lets you do the things you want to do, you want to keep doing them until you can't do it any longer, and that hasn't happened to me yet.
And I'm glad you say that too, because age is just a number, right? It's
Exactly.
literally, it's what you're capable of with your mind. You can choose how you want to feel, how you want to think, what you want to do even. Is there a belief you maybe, I feel like the answer is no, but is there maybe a belief you once had about aging or physical limitations that you now know is just absolutely not true?
Well, actually, I did.
Oh.
When I was 20, I wouldn't want to admit it. There used to be a thing women should marry, and they should marry young. And I wasn't and didn't want to, and yet I felt like I'm going to be aging out of everything. So one time, I took my whole age and put it 10 years younger when I was going to a new place, and I thought nobody's going to say I'm old because of this. I'll just say, and I took my brother's age instead of mine.
Oh my gosh. And people would believe you, right?
They did.
Yeah.
They believed me, and there wasn't as much checking of IDs as there is nowadays.
Well, and also your spirit is quite young as well, so that's a dead giveaway. I'm like, oh no, she couldn't possibly be 94 right now. Like, no way, no way.
Well, my doctor said, as it said in the movie, that I have the biological age of many of his patients 30 years younger. Wow. So great.
And I love, you've come up with all these amazing taglines. Like Kim and I actually quote you sometimes, and one of your tagline is, "I'm Anne Lorimor, and I'm just getting started," which I think is amazing.
Well, you didn't put in that I'm 94 years young and I'm just getting started.
That's an important piece of it. We can't technically say we're 94.
No, but what you can say is what you can say.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
And I know you've mentioned it a little bit, but I want to, and we're going to talk about it a bit more later on in the podcast, but you've mentioned, your cause, which is called Creating Exciting Futures. How has, formulating this cause and working on it really helped drive you to, keep pushing yourself?
Well, I'm certain it has, but I just think that there's so many kids out there that are smart and deserve a chance. And a lot of them think that if their parent was a street sweeper, that's what they got to be. Not true. I want them to know that there are options for everybody. And once you know the options, then you get the tools to do what you want to do. And you do it and you love it. And I love the expression that if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Yes.
I think that's important. And the other thing I liked so much was the saying that the majority of men lead lives of quiet desperation. I don't want that for my kids. I want them to love life and go out and then give back eventually.
And I love hearing you say my kids too, because we are all your children, and we live through you, we live with you, creating exciting futures, and of course your own daughter too. But I hear you on that.
Yes, I'm thinking about the scholarship kids, and I want them to grow because I've done several things with them, sent them to an entrepreneurial boot camp and given them a youth Toastmasters so they'll be able to speak articulately and comfortably with whatever, no matter what they choose to do. That will be helpful to them.
Yeah.
Financial literacy, I want to push that. There are just so many things I want to give them.
Oh, yeah.
And they are my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's amazing. I mean, Kim honestly didn't know a lot of these pathways until she met me. She didn't even know that entrepreneurship was honestly a thing that she could achieve.
No, I don't even know anyone really in my life, like friends or family, that even really talked about or used the word entrepreneurship, even though I clearly have entrepreneurs in my
your
family.
grandpa's quite a successful
My
entrepreneur.
grandpa, my mom's brother, I definitely can see it, but it wasn't like a common topic of conversation for me to have learning opportunities like you're talking about, Anne, where I'm like, oh, what is this entrepreneurship? How do I do it? It was just like, oh, my family has jobs.
But if you did have a grandmother that was an entrepreneur, you saw that, that was helpful. Some kids don't have that. They don't do anything but jobs that they moan as they go to every day.
Yeah.
And they think that's, to your point, the way of life. Like, oh, this is just what I have to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
and I want to show them they don't have to. And I'm not a snob about it. I've got a lot of formal education. But if the kid really wants to be a plumber or he wants to be a carpenter, we need all those people.
Absolutely.
But know what your choices are. Don't just go into it blindly.
Don't settle.
And nowadays, it's almost not even a choice to go into the trades. The trades for our generation were kind of looked down upon, and now we're seeing no, those are extraordinarily useful skills that are wildly needed in our society.
And profitable a lot of the times too. They're so busy.
Most of my generation that went into trade are making far more than the people who went through a 4-year degree without the debt that came along with it.
Yeah.
That's true. I've never been a snob about it, and I'm glad to see that it's becoming more widely accepted generally.
Absolutely, because I really believe everyone is put here and has a skill set, and I think when you're the most happiest, it's when you're doing your gift that also benefits your community.
And,
That's Isaac's
and,
son, right?
and if you have that gift, you probably love it. But be sure you do. If you don't, go find something else.
Exactly.
I think one of my favorite songs, though, I have to show you it if you've never heard of it before. You know the band Dirty Heads?
Heard of it?
They have a song called Vacation, and it's like something along the lines of every day I feel like I'm on vacation because I love my occupation.
Okay.
Like, that's exactly what it's really catchy.
I
Though.
like
I'll
that.
send it to you. But
I'd
that's
like
like
that.
my theme song for life. Like, I just want to enjoy what I'm doing and love what I'm doing. And then it doesn't feel like a job. It feels like we're
Exactly.
doing great things in the world and making a difference, which is fun.
Remember, I said the same thing to you, that if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Exactly. Yeah. So, speaking of children and everything that you do with your nonprofit, I want to go back to your childhood. I can't wait to ask you this question, but if you could sit down with your younger self before your big like first adventure, what would you say to her? What kind of advice would you give her?
I would like to say to her, you're enough, you're okay, you're not ugly.
That self-confidence.
That was something we all liked, and I found out to my amazement that all my wonderfully exciting brothers and sisters all have a lack of self-confidence. And I think it is because of the perfectionism of my mother, who what we did was never enough. And she didn't mean it bad. She wanted us to be the best, but it still affected us, everyone.
It sounds like it's really hard to be a parent. Isaac and I don't have that personal experience, but it doesn't seem to matter what kind of mother you are to your children. It always leaves an impression in a way that you may not think will affect your children, you know?
I'm sure it does, but I was a nanny for a professor while I was in grad school, and his wife was wonderful with the kids. And I told somebody that she was never cross with them, and she looked at me and she says, well, well.
Different story.
That's funny. So I know, Kim wasn't even here, but as we were walking in, Anne let me know that she's actually visited over 100 countries now,
Ooh.
which is pretty amazing. From, those 100 countries, is there one that really stands out as unexpected? Like you went there and you weren't expecting something, and then it was just like, wow, this is really quite amazing, or this is such a different type of culture.
I think probably Egypt. I went there, and it just, I knew about the pyramids and things like that, but it just seems people were so different. There were little things that you saw happen. They're the guy that irons on the street, and he has a little pot. He takes his mouthful of water and sprays it all over the clothes and irons it. I mean, I never heard of such a thing.
Interesting.
And so somebody pointed it out to me. That's what he was doing. I didn't notice that. Just a lot of things were so different. And then it was while somebody was being pretty strict with them over there. So I saw the belly dancers, and they're very skilled and very interested. But he had made them, instead of having bare midriffs, they had a sort of a sheer thing over their middle that they wore with their dancing. Just a lot of interesting things.
Did you
that
join
happened.
them, Anne? I could see you.
I actually didn't, but I do love to dance. You're right about that.
That's
Yeah,
fun.
I think traveling is so amazing because you just see things you never would have comprehended were things, and you get to experience things. And like, I actually got trapped in London for a week, and I don't know why. When I went to London, I just didn't expect it to be a very cool place, and I ended up falling in love with it after spending a week there. I mean, it was just like an amazing place. The tube makes so much sense. I still say to Kim sometimes, please mind the gap.
You do. You still
Well,
do that.
I love the double-decker buses, and even when they didn't want me to, I'd always go up there so I could see everything.
Yeah, and great markets and like the free museums,
The
epic
museums,
museums.
fascinating,
Unbelievable.
fascinating
I just said-
museums, and quaint old areas where they have houses back from the 1400s, 1200s, or whatever.
Yeah.
Just exciting things.
That's gorgeous.
And lots of writers there, and they'll have sort of shrines to them where they grew up. I loved England.
All the
I just
history
loved
and the
it.
culture. And I love that, like what you're talking about Egypt and you're talking about London, like you go to all these different places and we can kind of come home then with all the new things that we've learned and kind of make our own recipe of things like, oh, let me try spitting water onto my let's see if I can do that.
Exactly.
But that's unique. That's different.
I think traveling is the most broadening thing I know, and you do take it home with you. And,
Yeah.
well, and when you see people over there and they say, well, where can I find a McDonald's? They're missing a lot.
They just don't know what they don't know, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm out there open to all the experiences there are. Try the exotic cuisine. Just do all the things. Go into the shops and see what they have that's so different. And it's amazing when we think that everything would be the same. It's not.
No.
And so
Yeah.
you learn a great deal.
Well, and again, they come up with solutions to problems that you couldn't have comprehended.
Yeah.
And like, so for one of the things we brought back from traveling 3 months in Europe was we now hang dry our clothes 70% of the time,
Yeah.
but we got a European drying rack. The
Which-
drying racks are far superior
So
to
much better.
our clotheslines.
I always thought that you had to hang dry on a clothesline because, like, I don't know, I thought that's what my grandma and everyone else did. It wasn't until, and a drying rack is, they're bulky and weird. I don't know. It wasn't until we discovered the European drying rack.
Folds.
Yeah, it folds into a thin little slit, and it opens this way, and then it has a bottom rack
Oh,
that
and
opens this
nose.
way and this way. It's like I've been missing out. And then my clothes last longer. Like, they don't pill and everything. I know you know, but we didn't know, Anne.
We didn't know.
Until we had
And
to
then-
travel outside the country to learn, wow, what?
I started learning young. When I was very young, we had to scrub our clothes on a washboard for a
Yeah.
while
Wow.
and then hang them. But my father was pretty inventive, so he took bicycle wheels and he made us a clothesline that you stood in one spot under a shelter and rolled it out. And I
Okay.
thought,
Oh.
I didn't know it existed. It does, but I didn't know it, and he didn't know it either. He invented it. It was
That's
wonderful.
creative, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, he was extremely creative. My father, inventive.
That's
Wow,
amazing.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's really struck us in Europe that again we didn't know was they use a completely different wheat. Like here in America,
Oh,
almost
yeah.
everything is cooked with enriched wheat flour, and
Yeah.
in Europe it's
It's durum wheat semolina, where they fine mill the flour and we digest it differently. And instead of feeling tired or bloated after eating something like a big bowl of delicious pasta or bread, we actually feel more energized after eating it. It's like, why isn't somebody teaching us this? Like you said, it broadens our minds to go travel, and then we're like, wow, how can we make this happen here in
Yeah.
America? Where can I find these ingredients? How can I start making my own things? Like, just, yeah, it gets your mind going.
And it is amazing that there are the little shops around from the various cultures where you get the kind of thing you want. Like,
Yeah.
I love the baklava from the Middle East, and
Oh.
so
Yeah.
you can find those if you really look, and a lot of other things that are so good.
Yeah. May I?
yeah. Go ahead.
So, talking about this, you've had a lot of different experience throughout your life. From rotary phones, which I also had, by the way, to smartphones, from handwritten letters to AI is now a thing now. But through it all, you've kept moving forward regardless of these changes. How has being a traveler helped you stay open and grounded and maybe even inspired as the world around you has evolved so much?
I think it has helped because you see that other people have adjusted to a different kind of life and different kinds of artifacts and all that sort of thing. But I do miss some of the old things just the same.
Oh, me too, me too. I don't miss the sound of the DSL, the
Well,
I still actually have a rotary phone that a friend gave me when the military was getting rid of it. And it can be handy on the days when electricity goes out. I can call out on that phone.
Oh my
What?
So
gosh.
it's pretty
and
handy.
the telephone lines are still laid. That's wild.
That
That's
is
very
wild.
cool.
I wouldn't have known that. That's wild.
Well, it helps.
Is it just a basic black looking phone?
Yes, the kind with the rotary dial,
Yeah.
and it works just fine. But I don't. It's inconvenient when you want to push in things.
That's
Yeah.
so funny.
But on the other hand, when there isn't anything else, it's really
Yeah.
handy.
I was honestly hoping you'd say, no, Kim, it's in the shape of a hamburger rotary phone. 'Cause they did have those too. We had
I-
one like
Only
that.
you. Only you.
Mine was just an old one that the military was throwing out, and my friend gave it to me, and
That's funny.
it's been handy to have.
That is handy.
Now, one thing Kim and I have talked about that it seems, at least to us, that it used to be very prevalent in culture, and yet it's very hard to find now is like dance socials.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we really think that that's something seriously missing for our generation. Did you go to dance socials growing up? Was dancing like just part of a cultural get-together regularly?
I'm going to fool you, Isaac. I grew up in a family where dancing was evil.
Oh.
Yeah.
But what I did do, I felt rhythm. And so my sister and I used to go out in the woods and we'd do something called fairy steps, and it's awfully close to what people do when they're dancing.
Okay.
Did you
So
say
we did
fairy
that.
steps? That's like the cutest.
We called it fairy steps.
I love
but
that.
it was
Fairies
just
in the forest.
Fun to prance around in the forest. But then when I got older, we did have dances at the nursing school that I went to, and some other places I've gone. At International House, they'd have dances occasionally, and I enjoyed those.
Yeah.
And when I worked in nursing school and there weren't any men around, we danced with the girls, so you learned to do what you needed to do. And then later on, I did take dance lessons because I wanted to be better. I like to be good at the things I do.
Yeah.
And it did help a lot and gave me a lot more self-confidence.
Were the lessons about a certain type of dance?
Arthur Murray offers you almost everything. I learned samba and rumba and mambo and, of course, waltz and foxtrot, and it was fun to be able to feel comfortable. The waltz was one of my favorites.
Yeah, you know a lot of diverse dancing.
That was our second date. I took Kim swing dancing.
Swing dancing,
Let me
that
correct
was
him.
another one we
he
learned.
He tried to do that, but he took us to this dance group, and what I didn't know, I thought I'd be dancing with Isaac. And then they were like, surprise, it's like speed dating, and they just pass you to the next person all the way around the circle, so everyone gets an experience.
We did that at International House sometimes, and it was fun when you had all these foreign students.
It was
and
interesting. And you get to meet people, which is cool. It was just like, we're going on a date, I thought, and I was dancing with a lot of other men.
But at least you met a lot of people, and it can be fun.
And I got her a bit jealous when she saw me dancing with some of the other ladies.
Swinging around and stuff. I know.
Well, it helps if you can just not be jealous, just realize this person cares about you, and don't worry about the rest of it.
Oh yeah,
it makes
funny
life
thing
easier.
It helped beat the heat or build the heat, I should say.
Beat the heat? What does that even mean?
I meant build the heat, because then I look at him across
funny.
the room and I'm like, eyeing him. I'm like, okay, I can't wait to get closer. So yes. All right, Isaac, are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Anne, it is time for game time. Are you prepared for this? All of these games are surrounded with Anne-isms. So the first game is called Answers. Get it? Answers?
Serves.
Answers, like answers. Like you have to answer.
Oh, answers.
But your
Answers.
name is in
Oh,
Anne.
okay.
She's very
And
proud of
serves.
this. She's very.
Well, let's see what I know. And if
So-
it's modern, I won't. But if it's
No.
historical, I
You
know
just
quite
have
a
to
lot.
use your brain.
Okay,
So
let's see.
we'll see how well. It's a rapid fire question and answer game. So you can only give me one word as your answer. Ready? I know. If you can't see her face right now, you should watch YouTube and watch her face reaction. But number one, what's the best thing about being 94?
Oh,
One word.
youthful.
Ooh. What's a smell that instantly takes you back to childhood?
Food.
Ooh. What's one place in the world you
Kim
could
says
eat lunch every day forever?
France.
Ooh, that's a great answer. What's the last thing you remember laughing really hard at?
I was.
Oh.
I told her this. Kim said this game. I was like, Kim, this is a really tough game.
All right, name the person that you laughed really hard at last, or with.
Film festival.
Film festival, I will accept. Last question. What's something people totally misunderstand about getting older?
Youthful.
Now, I want to hear this story, though, about when you laughed really hard.
I know.
So,
All right, lay it out.
yeah. So actually tell us the story.
I was just thinking about somebody getting he was not in tune with things, but somehow it just was funny, and it was kept saying things that I kept laughing because they made no sense.
nonsensical?
Yes, and he wasn't doing it on purpose. It's just
no.
that it kept coming out, and I kept laughing and laughing, thinking, well, that person doesn't know quite what he's saying, but it is funny.
But it's funny.
Yes, it's very funny.
That's hilarious.
That's
and
great.
France is a good answer. I could never get tired of French food.
I know, right? But I love Italian too.
Oh, yeah.
Me too. It's just the French have such it's art that you're eating.
Exquisite taste of things.
The creative flavors, the creativity in general. Like we had a burger on top of a bed of arugula surrounded by baby fingerling potatoes.
Oh,
Like,
great.
how beautiful was that? I was like, oh, this is different. Like something so simple.
And in Paris, when I went there the first time, I got to go to several of the pretty exquisite restaurants, and then to some of the ones at the working menus, which also had very good food.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we found about, France, is that you could get like extremely high-end, food there, but you could also get pretty affordable food, and yet all of it is phenomenal at its different levels.
And still quality as well.
And to us, a big culture shock in France was like most French restaurants do not have menus. They literally write down on a chalkboard what they have that day, and they bring that chalkboard and be like, this is what we got.
Or then bring you the chalkboard and be like, oh, wait, and then go, and
we're out
cross
of that.
off, we're out of this.
Because it's all fresh ingredients every day, so they can't have a menu because they don't know what necessarily they're going to even have for ingredients the next day.
Right. Yeah, when we went there, and we had zucchini for every meal because that was what in
that
season.
was in Italy.
Oh,
really.
Italy, actually, yeah. So it was like zucchini pizza, zucchini as your side, zucchini everything.
Yeah. And zucchini bread's darn good too.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, they had this, I don't know if they still have it, I think it was Leal in Paris, where they had this great big market, and they go out every day and buy their things there.
Yeah.
And it was delicious. But the point my daughter says to me is always, it's got to be totally fresh.
Yep.
If you got that, then you got a good start.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is one thing, we miss coming back to America too, after like living in Europe for some months, is coming back and like, I want to be able to like go to the market and buy fresh produce, go to the bakery, go to the butcher, and go to all these separate places, but they're kind of hard to find in
Yeah,
America.
you have a good butcher for us here in Phoenix, Ann? Because we haven't found a great butcher
Well,
yet.
there's one on 16th Street that I think's pretty good if he's still there.
Okay.
He had nice, fresh food. And some of the farmers' markets, there's one in Mesa, there's one over on Cactus Road in Phoenix that have some very wonderful fresh food.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them you will feel they're growing it in front of you.
Yeah, the farmers markets are great, actually, in Arizona, like the Old Town Scottsdale one, Phoenix. We have a couple huge, and the vegetables are huge.
And fresh.
And fresh,
Totally
most
fresh.
importantly. All right, ready for part 2 of our game?
You got another part
I
too?
Oh, I do. I had all the Annisms I told you. So
Yeah.
this one is called instinct reactions. Instinct reactions. Get it? Get it?
Okay.
Anne. I need Anne's instincts.
Like I said, she was very proud of herself that she came up with these.
I was. So I'm going to say like a short phrase or a word, and then you have to respond with the first piece of advice that would come into your head or like a reaction you get when I mention the word. So the first one is Peru.
Machu Picchu.
Yes. And how about becoming a movie star at the age of 94?
Exciting.
You can use many words now. You don't
Yeah.
have to just use
You
one.
can use more than
Oh, I
one
can.
word.
Thank you. It was hard to get it down to one word.
I know. Yeah, this is like reactions or like a piece of advice you would give someone about
right.
it too. So your reaction is exciting. That's still applicable.
Yeah.
The next one is what's your reaction or piece of advice you would give people on getting older?
I would say just realize that it's never too late to learn and grow. Age is only a number.
Age is only
And I find that learning is what like inspires me now. It's that's what really excites me and gets me like moving. And like when I'm learning new stuff, like Kim will say, like I'll come down and be like, oh, I just learned this great new thing, and we get really passionate about it.
And you get really motivated when you're inspired and you're motivated, and then he's taking action and doing new things.
And
Yeah.
if you're open to learning, life is so much more exciting for you and so much more fun.
So much more fun. I'm glad you said fun, not just exciting, so much more fun.
Absolutely.
All right, what reaction or piece of advice do you have when it comes to the top of Kilimanjaro?
I would say never ever quit when you're going there. But I would say also train before you go. Go to some altitudes. We went a few days early to do the safari, which was at a higher level than most of us live. So that helped some. And I did climb around in Coconino County, where they have Humphreys and some of those mountains. And the first time I climbed around Colorado for a lot of the peaks just to get myself acclimated, because I didn't want something like altitude sickness to stop me.
Yeah.
Yeah, silly thing like altitude sickness. Like, oh,
Which kills people,
Yeah,
but I wasn't going to let it
I
stop
think it
me.
even affected one of the guides you were with, like on Mount Kilimanjaro. From what I saw, maybe it wasn't your guide, but in the movie, one of them
He looked like he had a bit of altitude
looked-
sickness, like passing by you.
Some of them were fairly new at the job, so maybe they weren't as acclimated, but the others, they just a breeze for them.
Yeah. And I still remember we were actually in Zion National Park, and I had given you a call because I knew you had gotten down from the bottom of Mount Kilimanjaro. This is the second time that you had climbed it when you were 89, and I'm talking to you, and I was like, well, how was the climb? And you were like, well, I'm so glad that I accomplished it, but like, there was some struggle there, and I got back, and my doctor checked me out, and I realized that I had like cracked 3 ribs.
Three broken ribs.
3 broken ribs on the climb up, and that didn't stop you. You still kept going, and I was just amazed, and I went to Kim, and I was like, you won't believe what Anne just told me.
know.
Like, that's crazy.
I was like, what do you mean? But what I didn't realize after watching the movie, too, was so to get the Guinness World Record, like the actual award, I don't know what to call it, the record, it's an unassisted hike, meaning nobody can help you and you can't have oxygen on the way up. Is that how it works?
Well, I felt that I shouldn't. I don't know what their actual rules are
right.
because the dentist that did it for me was using oxygen, and I thought, well, I don't think that's fair. And then the Russian woman, she had people on each arm taking her up the mountain, and I thought, well,
wow.
that doesn't count, so I'm going to do it totally alone.
Yeah, and totally
Nobody
your
helps
way.
me up.
It was Anne's way, though. I thought that was really incredible, like watching that in the movie. Like they literally show you just, sometimes we stumble over our feet. You take a little fall, and then everyone,
Want to help you up.
Yes.
No.
Everyone wants to, and Anne's like, I'm fine. I will get up on my own. Just give me a minute. I will get up. And also, it gave you an excuse to take a small break so you can get up again. But anytime Anne would go down, she would get up on her own, and then she'd get back. I mean, you made it all the way to the top.
And as you saw at the top, there were times when it was a struggle, but I wasn't going to stop. Kevin said to me, you don't have to do this. I said, I do. There are too many people counting on me, and I'm not going to stop.
Was that your mindset that was really like, because I know that part of the movie, and that had me a little emotionally attached to when it's like, I can't do this. And I've never heard you say those words ever, so I know you were going through some things too. But it's got to be so hard feeling the shooting pain in your lungs every time you breathe. Like, how did you get past I can't when you were so close to the top?
If anybody tried to take me off that mountain, I'd have beaten them up. No, the thing was, it was very, very slippery and steep.
Yeah.
And so what I did do was start angling across it to get on up there. But at the moment, I felt like this can't be done. But nobody could have stopped me, just the same, no matter what I said.
All right, so that was just the choice words of what we saw in the film of I can't. It was like, I just need a different path, you guys. That's what it was.
That's really what it amounted to, because I did sound as if I were not going to do it, but nothing would have stopped me.
You certainly sounded frustrated. I gathered that.
There were times when I was so close to the top then, and I was so exhausted, and I was slipping and slipping.
Yeah.
I did it.
You did it. You
still did it. And
so amazing.
again, here's the certificate. I'm holding it up right now.
Show it to the camera.
It's not an award. It's a certificate.
Thank you. Certificate.
And on the bottom here, officially amazing.
With an official. Isaac, can you read it? What does it say for our listeners?
The oldest person to climb Mount Kilimanjaro is Anne Lorimor, USA, 11th of June, 1930 is when you were born, so that's your birthday, who reached Uri Peak of Mount Kilimanjaro, Tanzania, age 89 years old, 37 days on the 18th of July, 2019.
I love that they gave your age 89 years and 37 days.
That is funny.
They made it exact, because if somebody came within a day or two of me, that would be important.
Yeah, that's very cool. And there's an official approved sticker on the bottom and everything. This is very. I'm so glad you brought this, because I've seen this in like YouTube clips and whatnot.
Right, America's Got Talent.
And like shout out Dude Perfect, break world records and that kind of stuff. But I've never seen one in person, so it's very cool. So was there somebody that climbed with you? Like, how did they officially award you this?
I had on a watch that marked the spaces. In the movie, you remember sometimes I'll say we're at exactly this height and so forth. But the guide was absolutely watching, and when he got there, he's the one that said, now you've officially done this. Because there was a man earlier who was 87, and he claimed the title, but nobody'd give it to him because nobody proved it. So I made very sure that when I did this, I wanted to get the credit for it.
So was someone from the Guinness World
No,
Records?
but it was the guide, and also
Okay.
you had your own machine, the watch that showed what I was doing.
Gotcha.
Took pictures of, and kept a record and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I really wanted the credit for it after I did it.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh,
absolutely.
nothing would feel worse than not getting the credit after doing that whole thing.
Well, it felt pretty bad when I was the oldest woman and we were going through Guinness, and then this Russian woman comes in. She's just a few years older than I was, and also she was being helped all the way. So I thought, I got to do this over
So
again.
she was the one who beat your record.
Yes,
then.
in
wow.
about 4 months she went. She said she'd promised her sister, but I'm telling you, she had people on each arm just practically carrying her up the
Wow.
mountain was how it looked to me. So I thought, I'm not going to do it that way.
No, but I mean, still good for her for doing it
Oh,
at
well,
the age she
sure.
did, of course.
She
but
was,
then
I
Anne took it another level completely and was like, I'm going to do it. Nobody's going to touch me.
It was-
I'm not going to use oxygen.
It
I'm
was
gonna do
funny
everything.
watching the movie and like when because it shows you falling a couple times and literally you could like feel everyone around you like catch the breath and like
Yeah,
start
reach
to
for
reach
me,
out.
I mean,
And I'd
I
tell
would
'em
too.
no.
And
It's
Anne's like, I
instinct.
got this.
Yeah. It's like, we'll be fine. Zaina's like, great. We'll film while you're sitting down. That's great. All right. We got stuck at Mount Kilimanjaro, which I'm grateful for, but we do have 4 other reactions or pieces of advice I need from you for your instinct reactions. Ready? How do you feel about Kim and Isaac?
Well, I admire Kim and Isaac because they took off from work they had and just went and traveled. And a lot of people want to do that, and very few do. I've known the one woman I told you from Toastmasters that took a year off and did it. Most people are afraid to. And so I think it's wonderful doing something you love so much that it'll be so broadening for you.
And
yes.
we actually did it a bit differently. It's not that we took off from work, but we created a lifestyle and a business that allowed us to travel and work simultaneously.
Yeah.
Because we've seen a lot of people like to sell everything they own and to go traveling. They travel for a year and then they're broke.
Or they got to go back and get a job then.
So you made it so that you took it with you. Well, I'm sorry if I
Yeah.
misunderstood that,
No
but I
worries.
still admire it very much. I tried to get somebody to let me be a travel writer when I started my traveling, but they said, that is a reward for people that have been in newspaper in years and years. So I gave it up, that one.
Yeah.
I just went on and traveled anyway, though.
Yeah. Well, and then you moved to nursing, right? A traveling nurse?
No. When I was starting to go I was accepted by the University of Cincinnati because I'd been living there going to a small college which wasn't accredited, and I said, I'm not doing this. And they accepted me, and I'd been there for a year and supporting myself, and then they said, no, you're a resident where your parents are, which is in Arizona, so we aren't going to give you non-resident tuition. Well, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
With resident, I could have. So I was working as a nanny for doctor there, and he said, I think you'd be a good nurse. And so he introduced me to his hospital, which was Jewish Hospital, and they had a school of nursing. I thought, well, I can do this and use it as a fallback position. Nurses can always find work. So I went there and I got a full ride scholarship, and so that helped me a whole lot, and I've fallen back on it a few times in my career.
And those are great skills to have
Yes,
regardless.
exactly.
I mean, always needed. It's essential, and they're great skills to have in your household for when one of your many friends or family or something needs a help. They're like, Anne, what do I do?
And I think you can keep yourself healthier if you know a little bit about it. Some people in medicine and nursing don't pay attention, but I always paid attention to nutrition and exercise. And
Yeah.
the stress part I didn't get down as well as I should have, but at least I knew that it was something you wanted to go
Well,
along
and
with.
that says something to the point of like how you are in your health now at the age of 94 is just breathtaking. I mean, and inspiring, and should, I hope, even by being on our podcast, inspire so many other people, listening and us sharing your message of your experience through life and just how amazing it is.
And I want to repeat again, it's never too late to learn and grow.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I love your taglines. Like you come up with
I
such
know.
amazing taglines that are just so fun.
We should have had a tagline off. Like, how many taglines can we name from Anne without Anne saying anything? That's good. Never too late, we know.
Yeah.
I'm not done yet.
Yeah, I'm not done yet.
Oh, I'm beating you.
And I like the one where I say I'm 94 years young and I'm just getting started.
Just getting started.
And then
94
the
years
one, never, ever quit.
Never, ever quit.
That is, persistence is one of my qualities.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the things that helps you power through it even when you don't think you're getting anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
So I do want to jump in
Yeah.
to the non-profit stuff and talk a little bit about that, you know,
Yes.
because what we've seen is like this non-for-profit you created, creating exciting futures. We mentioned it. I think what you're doing in providing like this option and education to youth about like, hey, there are more than just this one option in front of you, and you've dedicated so much of your life to helping the underprivileged youth through your non-for-profit. How has adventure shaped that philosophy of like wanting to give back?
Well, I'm not sure that I could say that adventure did it, but my curiosity always helped me.
Yeah.
When I was just 9 years old, my parents had a children's home, and I went and helped with the babies. I really did help with the babies. When I'd feed them and bathe them and change them and take them, give them sunbaths and all the things they did, and I really felt that we were doing some good there, because all of these kids, most of them were kids that were born out of wedlock, and it was terribly not proper in those days. And yet I saw one of them. He was adopted, and I saw him in Wisconsin a few years ago. You weren't supposed to have favorites, but he always was kind of my favorite. And so I was so glad to see him, that he'd grown up and had a good job and had a wife that he loved, and life had been good for him.
Yeah.
So you want to see that for kids. And a lot of orphans had miserable lives from what I've seen in real life and also in movies and books, that they would go and people would abuse them terribly. And I don't want to see that for them, so I want to help them. And then I also say this: every child deserves food, clothing, shelter, and safety. They have to have that. And that's not what I'm about. I'm trying to go beyond that and help them get the skills and the options and the knowledge, so they do the things that they love. And I just think that's so important, because a lot of people don't, as we all know.
Yeah, and I would say your curiosity, that's the answer, right? Like, curiosity is what has led you through traveling and adventure. You're curious to explore, as well as curious on like, how can I do better in the world to help impact these underprivileged youth and actually give them the tools and resources to live an impactful life that they can feel great about.
They usually tell you they tell you to choose 3 qualities about yourself, and I can never stop there. I say I'm adventuresome, I'm caring, I'm curious, and I'm persistent. And I think all of those things influence what I do with kids.
And I'm sure it goes beyond a list of 4, right, Anne?
Oh, a lot of others, but those are the 4 major ones that I would mention.
Core.
Yeah.
And so, as someone who, in my future, I want to create a non-for-profit. Kim and I are very involved in the sustainable movement here in Phoenix, and have done a lot of work in supporting both sustainability and, we're in the process of actually getting our company to be Green Business Certified here in Arizona. So we'll have that certificate by the end of this month, which we're excited about. So I'm just curious, what was that moment you decided that I am going to create a non-for-profit, and how do you go about creating one?
I don't know that it was an exact moment. I was in a business organization, and there was somebody in there that said, I can set this up for you. And so I had gone to Arizona Community Foundation, where I have a little fund where I tell them what to do with the money every year, a little bit of it. But this gave me the chance to do what I really wanted to do, which was get the kids to do the kinds of things I want, the boot camp and the other things that I think are important, like, as I told you about the youth Toastmasters and the financial literacy and just the other things, and also to learn little things like it really is better to approach people in a friendly way than to go out stridently and say, you've got to give me my rights. You're going to do a lot better if you do it another way. Yeah. So I would like to get them into all of those kinds of things. And I love to see them get a chance. And I had several real success stories with the kids that I helped. And it made me feel so good to know that life was better for them. And then in turn, their ripples are going to be out. Yeah. They're going to make other people feel better. And it's just amazing how far it could ripple out.
Yeah.
Child help. those two women started with orphans, Sarah O'Meara and Yvonne Feddison, and they've now, for 50 years, helped 12.5 million kids.
Wow.
Well, I can never match that, but I can maybe help one or two at a time, who can then help others and help others and help others, so it ripples out. It makes the world a better place.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I know both Kim and I have studied Terry Crews. He's an inspirational figure to us, and he says all a child needs is one person to believe in them to change their life.
Yeah.
And that was for him one of his teachers, and I know you talked about it, I believe in the movie as well, or maybe at the Q&A afterwards. You had a couple teachers, it sounds like, really believe in you, and that really made a huge impact in your life.
I don't think I could have done what I did if they hadn't been there encouraging me. And I told you one of them actually paid my way in boarding school when I got to high school, and that was just a tremendous help. And the other one just believed in me. And I one time I read that when I was in high school, it said, well, you have to be very intelligent to go to college. So I looked at her and I said, well, I guess that washes me out. And she said, oh, no, you're going to do just fine. And I always was more intelligent than I thought I was. It was the same part of the general lack of self-esteem that I just felt I was pretty dumb.
Yeah.
That didn't catch on, but actually I wasn't.
And I think there's a variety of different types of intelligent. Again, we look now at like how intelligent you are at taking tests. And that's kind of how people measure intelligence here in America.
In school.
And yet there are people who may not be great intelligent in terms of like going to school, and yet they're master mechanics or master craftsmen.
I mean,
or
Isaac, you're an example of that. Isaac, I believe you got a couple of detentions maybe in your lifetime. And also maybe...
I was more of a troublemaker.
But this is the thing, like when you have even my own nephew, he's 18 and he's brilliant. Isaac is brilliant. And school can be boring to people who are brilliant in different ways, I can't imagine Albert Einstein had a great time through school. Like, I don't even
I think he famously flunked out of like 8th grade math.
This is what I mean. And brilliant, life-changing.
It wouldn't surprise me. And even Edison, I think they had to take him out of school to get him home to training
and
because
Henry
he couldn't
Ford,
go.
I mean, the list goes on of all the incredible people who have made such massive impacts. But, like, school wasn't for them. Not to say school is bad in any way. Education is great. It's just when teachers, like you, Anne, you're a teacher. Like, you teach and educate these different people and children what their options are. And there's different pathways to achieve greatness.
I really like to do that. I had a little... cousin who was extremely, extremely bright, and so school was boring to him. And one year, he had a teacher that gave him all kinds of side things to do. I remember one time he was exploring the pharaohs of Egypt, and so he stayed excited about school and broadened himself. Some other teachers say, now you got to do it this way or no way. I never fit into that either. I usually was almost a teacher's pet.
Yeah, Kim, when I met Kim again, she really just thought there was one solution to every problem.
That's it, yeah. This is the only way.
It's the only way. And so she'd be like doing something, getting really frustrated, and I was like, have you tried approaching it from this angle?
Like literally my
Good
brain
for
could
you.
not even change to think. I mean, he opened my eyes to what you guys are talking about. I've always been a rule follower, teacher's pet, of course, straight A student, gotta. But like
He
I
said
was
gotta.
I was always that person though, but it wasn't really until I met Isaac. I've always had this curiosity and this affinity for nature and being outdoors, but I only knew as much as I knew until I realized there's other ways to think about things or just be open. Like you said, if you're open-minded, life is a lot more fun.
When you were always open-minded, Kim, it's just, and that's why I was like, okay, I can teach you.
You did. You did teach me.
But you just hadn't comprehended that there could be multiple solutions.
Oh my gosh. And we were at a national park one time, and the visitor center was about to close, and they do the announcement that's like, we're about to close in 10 minutes. If everyone could please head towards the exit. And I booked it. I was like, oh, we have to get out of here. And I tried to like run out because she announced we have to leave. And Isaac like grabbed my arm and he's like, we have 10 minutes, like slow down. Like you don't have to follow the rules right this second.
Yeah.
Like they will tell you again you need to leave. And also like they're not gonna put us in jail. They're just gonna be like, will you please kindly leave? Like we were in the middle of reading a sign. We weren't even done in the visitor center, but my little rule brain was like, get out, kid.
And she
Like,
she
oh my
turned
gosh.
on a dime and started like marching out of there.
and I don't do that. I spend the time to the last hustle minute. I took one of my nieces on a trip to Italy as a graduation present, and she said, and you're always pushing the envelope. And I do. I try to put as much into everything as I can and not just move to other people's rules. And I had a little mentee one time when we were going over to a party at my family's house. And I said to her, now, Erin, I'm going to do this and this and this and this on the way. She looked at me and she said,
How?
Anne, you're never going to make it. So that's pretty typical of me, trying to squeeze in as much and learn as much as I can.
Yeah.
But I did cut out a few times there and got there on time.
So funny. Make the most of it. That makes sense.
Do make the most of life. It's out there and it's fun.
And we were talking about your nonprofit as well. I'd like to go back to that also. You're creating exciting futures. It's all about opening doors for underprivileged youth. But for someone listening who's maybe in that position currently or knows someone who is, it might feel a little overwhelming or like a big dream without like a clear first step on how to take that. Can you kind of walk us through what that process with your nonprofit actually looks like? Like, let's say a young person wants to achieve something big, but they don't know how. Like, how would they get involved in your program, or what support might they receive along the way? And if you could share a couple real-life examples of students who have seen great success, that'd be great.
Most of the students I got came from other people who were doing the four things I said, And I sent out word that we offered this kind of, particularly the one I was proud of was the entrepreneurial program, because there aren't so many. A lot of these kids don't know networking, brainstorming, and all those things. Yeah. And so I made them say why they wanted to go, and then they had to be passed by the board. And we took them then, and after that, they made all kinds of connections, and some of them kept up with their networking connections. And I've decided that as I continue with this program, I want to have a mentorship program so that every one of the kids is a mentor, because they'd come home so high, and then I couldn't handle them all, and I'd try, but then they'd sort of sink. So I want somebody to have mentors that help them every single week to keep their spirits up and think of things in new ways and all those sorts of things. And I believe it's possible. And I know somebody that does a program where they have mentors, and I want to get the ones that help them, particularly career-wise, because I think that's where they need it. Mm-hmm. And so when I got from Alliances a couple of people that said they'd help one of the girls that said she wanted to go into real estate. She went there and she said, I had about 10 things I wanted to do, and I came out and decided I want to be in real estate. So I thought, that's good. If you narrow it down, it does help you to go toward it more precisely and quickly. Yeah. And so that was a good thing about her. I hope to have lectures where the kids can come up and ask for help. And I myself, when I get them, or the people that, when I build this infrastructure and they help, I know people, for example, that can get them tremendous scholarships. One of them got two kids, Stanford, for a $50,000 scholarship for a year, and then it could be continued. And so you got to have people that are specialists in the various things. I can't certainly do it all, but if I can guide them to some of the people that will help them, that would be good. And anyone that comes to me, I like to think that I can at least refer them where they'll find things that are exciting. And I lost one of my best promoters. Mm-hmm. She had a Millet House in Mesa. Yeah. And she sent me, I think, about 3 or 4 of the different kids that I've given scholarships to. She's going away, but I will somehow find someone else to help. And the kids themselves who have been scholars can sometimes think of sending someone else. Oh, one thing I didn't mention, I've sent a couple of scholars to the film school boot camp. Ooh. And so they get there, and those kids work together, and they do all of the aspects of it, because maybe you think you want to be an actor. Well, maybe there are a lot of other things that go to making up a film, and they start learning that, the costumers and the prop people and the directors and the editors and all of these. Exactly. And these kids make a film, which they then get to show.
Oh, that's
and I think that's so exciting, because you can see something practical where you can use it for your portfolio then if you really decide you want to stay. And if you simply learn it, you really don't want to be in the film industry, that's useful, because then you go into some other direction.
And now you know what you don't like.
Exactly. And I think that's really important.
It's kind of crazy that you don't get to try careers in our culture until you're 22, until you've graduated from college. You don't really get to go in and try your different types of careers. And I just think that's crazy. I think, Even in middle school or younger, you should be able to go into different careers and kind of try them out for a day and just kind of see, like, is this something that I'm passionate about?
I like that.
We do have career days where people can take their kid to work for a day, and that's not what you're saying, but it gives you a step in that direction. So I
it's
think
like,
it's good.
wow, what my dad does is boring. Like, at least I would know.
And that you go in and somebody else says, "Gee, that's exciting that you put people together and you give them the things they need to do their career so successfully, or you're a good salesman, you get people what they want." And the attitude, if you get somebody that cares about the other person, you want a win-win situation, not just somebody that says, "Here, I want you to do this because
I'm dragging you along because you have to be
and
here."
and it'll give me a boost in my career." No, let it be win-win.
Yes,
so that I really like to see that.
Yeah. So how does somebody reach out to you? Like, what are the steps that someone should take if they want to get involved in your program?
I do have this website called creatingexcitingfutures.org, and it tells how to reach us, and it tells some testimonials of people that have seen my work and the kids that have had the scholarships, and there are just a lot of things in there that you can learn and get aspects of it that you never thought of maybe that we can help you with. And we want you to reach out, and I'm going to spread my infrastructure. I've got to have somebody to answer some of these things because I can't do it all. But I did have somebody offer to me just today saying that she could do the newsletter and she could answer the calls that come in and the emails that come in, and then the ones that she needs to, she sends to me. The ones that she can tell, she'll handle. So
it's all about having systems.
Wonderful.
We know.
Yeah. Infrastructures are so horribly important because you cannot do it all. As they say, it takes a village.
No, and you're able to make a much bigger impact beyond yourself when you're able to delegate to other people who are passionate about your cause. And I do just want to note one more thing. I think it was in your movie, there was a testimonial from a girl who did get a scholarship. And one thing I thought was really special that she said in the movie was that I didn't even think I would get this scholarship. I just applied just whatever, like to see what would happen. So even if you're listening right now and you just don't know what you don't know, but what you do know and what Anne is going to tell you is to just take action. Just apply. The worst case scenario, Isaac has taught me this lesson actually. What is the worst thing that could possibly happen? No, I will not get arrested at that national park. That is not the worst. But they'll gently tell me to leave, in which case the same goes for creating exciting futures. The worst case scenario is that you don't get the scholarship, but you wouldn't know unless you tried.
And we certainly would try to point you in another direction or have you try again another year. You've got to show some eagerness. That girl that you saw in the film, she took 3 buses to get to our first meeting, and that impressed me.
Wow.
And she was all in.
Yeah, she took initiative.
And that's the persistence you're talking about.
There was that, and as she said, the initiative as well.
Yeah.
And when she got to speak at the end of the entrepreneurial boot camp, she was just out there again. And she wanted to do everything. She wanted to sing, she wanted to talk. And she was a tremendous writer. And I kept encouraging her and saying, write every day, don't let anything stop you. But so anyway, she was wonderful.
Yeah.
And I had a boy that he said to his advisor, he was with Boys and Girls Club, I think, and he said, "Oh, I won't win. My family never wins." And then, later on, he became the very first person in his whole family to ever graduate high school.
Aww.
I was so proud of him.
Oh, that's
Very
got to
cool.
feel good for him and for
I mean, you just
Yes.
essentially changed the luck of an entire family just because you believed in someone. You know, it's just kind of
That gives me
crazy.
And they came to see him graduate. They were so proud. When they first told me, he said, we graduated high school or something. So? And no, the first in his whole family that ever graduated high
That's
school.
amazing.
And he wants to be a chef. And so I introduced him to a man that has his own restaurant because he wants his own restaurant in time. And he's out there working in the food industry now, getting some background. I was going to try to get him a scholarship to the Scottsdale Culinary Institute, but they've closed. But it'll come.
Yeah.
He'll find something so that he can do it.
He's destined for greatness, it sounds like.
I think so.
And he believes so.
When he was at the boot camp, he brainstormed a fusion restaurant with 2 other guys, and then somebody there told him about the grants that are available for people that provide essential services in under low income areas. Great. I don't know everything, but I try to get them in contact with the people that do know even more than I
And
do.
Isaac and I both know you are incredibly well connected, Anne, not just in Arizona, where the roots are, but in a lot of places, I would say, and definitely around Mount Kilimanjaro now, I would
Well, and
imagine.
you're about to get more connected now that you're a movie star. So
I know.
Well, the town manager that came just after I'd done the climb, she met me because she'd made the climb, and she said that the guides all over Kilimanjaro were talking about me, and that some of them said they didn't think anybody else was going to beat that record.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Amazing.
I really, how long do you think you'll hold this record for? Like, realistically, do you think somebody's going to try and beat it now?
They're going to have to be pretty strong and pretty amazing if they do, because you saw what a trouble I had doing it, and
Yeah.
I'm strong and I'm healthy.
Yeah.
Both
So-
in mind and body, let me say. Yes.
Thank you, my dear. But I think it could be a while. But I'll still keep in mind, if somebody does, I'll take that guy up on it and see if I can still do it at 100.
Yeah, she's going back. She's going back at it. At 98 is my next prediction. You're going to go back at it again.
If somebody beats me, I may well try that.
All right, Isaac, you have another question?
Yeah, I mean, so, we've been talking obviously a bit about travel, a bit about your life, everything, in terms of everywhere you've traveled in the world, do you have a place that really stands out as like kind of making the biggest impact in your life?
Can I just say the one that I'd most want to live in, that I love?
Sure, yeah.
I love Spain. I
Okay.
really, really loved Spain.
Yeah.
I liked the food. And then, of course, I had a ticket to the opera over there. They had a beautiful opera house. And they said it was the most democratic opera house in Europe because they didn't have a royal box.
That's funny.
And I had a wonderful time in Spain. And I'd love to go back and go there every year for vacation if I could.
Yeah.
It's
And
just-
we actually haven't been in Spain yet.
No,
We've been
at
told by
all.
many people we need to. I've been to many, many European countries, but Spain is definitely very high on our list for.
Yeah.
They used to have wonderful dances out in the cathedral grounds every few days, and I watched it, and
Yeah.
it just lovely things. And there's Picasso paintings on the buildings in the
Yeah.
square, and
Very intricate, right? Like
It-
the architecture and the detail, right?
it was lovely. And just being there was, to me, an experience, an expanding experience, and I
Yeah.
really, really loved it.
No, I can definitely see you light up talking about it. So
And it was funny when we were in France, we didn't see the French dance a ton, but when we did see them dance, they were always dancing to Spanish music, which was
Yes,
always
Anne.
very funny.
It's so wild. It was like it would just be a clear, pathway down there. We're looking over our balcony, and then we hear like Latin music in the background, and so we look over our balcony, and all the French people are dancing. Everyone's like, even the children, the adults, the men, the women, they're all getting together and like what, salsa dancing?
Yeah, yeah,
I was
it's
like,
it's
I've
a
never
fun-
seen French people dance really in my life,
Yeah.
but when you turn that Latin
Yeah,
music
you turn
on,
on that
it
Spanish
just
music,
it
that's
moves
great.
everybody.
It's sort of speaks to your body, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Oh, yeah,
You
yeah.
feel like you want to move to it.
Yeah, you can't hold still.
And then the tango is a beautiful, beautiful dance that,
Yeah.
that I love. And
Yeah, I learned salsa back in college. I really enjoy that dance form, and
I'll probably have to take some salsa lessons.
Yeah.
I'm a terrible dancer. I just don't understand how to not
step on people.
well, there's a little Mediterranean restaurant down on Scottsdale, and they probably still have salsa dancing
You
on Friday
mentioned
nights.
that.
I did.
No,
And
we'll have to
so
look
look
this
it up and
Yeah.
see,
Yes.
because it's
Cool.
fun
Well,
to
this,
go to.
I think leads really well into the next question. Or the last question. Do you want to
The
lay it on
last
us, Kim?
question. Yes, Anne. You have already done so much in life in general. You've set the bar pretty high, but I know one of your catchphrases is not done yet. So what's next on your adventure list?
On my adventure list,
Wow.
I am absolutely going up in the balloon, and maybe they'll take me up on my 95th birthday. We're talking about it. I had it all planned with a girlfriend, and I knew she had a fear of heights, but she said she'd do it. And I got her this card which showed her surrounded by Dobermans, and it said, this, live life dangerously. But then I never gave her that card because she just said, I can't do it. I can't do it. So I never have got to do it. And
Oh, wow.
I've already done now the jump from the airplane.
Yes,
So
yeah.
now
Yeah, we saw that.
The next thing will be the
Hot air balloon. Are you going
Yeah.
the full experience with like the meal and the champagne glasses and everything?
if they bring that on for my birthday,
Not
I
gonna say
will.
no.
If they don't, I'm just going to be glad to get up there.
Yes, yeah. Isaac and I actually have not been untethered, I'll say, in a hot air balloon either, but we did just buy hot air balloon tickets.
Yeah, we did.
Very, very
Yeah.
So we
good.
just have to book it.
We
But
just
yeah.
have to
It'll
book
be
it.
really exciting.
Yeah.
They had a exhibit over there. They do it once a year. I think it's in Bullhead City, and they were going to give free rides. Oh,
Wow.
wow. I was over there on a job, and I'll do it. But then the wind got so bad that we didn't get to go up.
Yeah.
And then it didn't work with my girlfriend, so
Yeah.
that's still one of my things to come.
Yeah.
But
That's exciting, though. Do you know where you will be headed over?
it'll probably be over on the west side of town. That's where they have the great balloon shows
Yeah.
over there.
Oh, that's true. And I always see hot air balloons over there too,
Yeah, yeah.
because it's a lot more deserted over there. And I'm curious. I wonder if the wind maybe isn't as choppy on the west side of the Phoenix Valley. There's
don't-
something over there that
I don't
attracts
know.
all
I
the
just
hot air balloons.
I know they do have it. They have their every year. They have their
Yeah.
great, exciting exhibit of it, and I just will do it someday.
That is
Yeah.
really
I saw
exciting.
more of it when I first came to town. I lived on the west side with my brother, and so
Yeah.
I got to see them, and it was exciting.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because we haven't been on an untethered hot air balloon, but we've actually launched hot air balloons. Like Kim
Plural.
and I worked.
It's a lot
We
of
went
work.
to the hot air balloon fest in Lake Havasu, and we were asked to help out.
So
Our
we
neighbor asked us to
volunteered.
help out, and it is hard work. These balloons are
So heavy.
and you
My
have to
arms were
control
like
them.
Jell-O
and
the next
yeah,
day.
we were so sore the next
my
day
gosh.
working on launching
Because
these hot air
I
balloons.
guess I didn't know. I mean, I know there's flames involved, right? But they take it out, they lay the balloon flat. The basket is on its side then because it's they attach it and everything. They literally have
It's a-
giant stand up, not a
It's
box
just a fan at first.
Yeah, so
But-
the fan is what fills the inside of that's it.
Okay.
And then eventually once it's full of air from the fan, then they bring out the flames and it's on its side. So
Yeah.
then the flame is filling it up even more. Isaac, do you remember what balloon we blew up?
Because they were,
It's ridiculous.
yeah, they were funny balloons.
They were funny. So one of
was
them
there like an armadillo with a cowboy hat?
Yes, it was an armadillo with a cowboy hat and holsters for guns. It was like a cowboy armadillo.
Yeah.
And the other one was in the shape of a spaceship with an alien as the driver. So strange.
Yeah.
I very much assume you'll be in a normal hot air balloon shape.
That's what I think we're doing, and that's okay because I'll still be up there and get to float around and
beautiful.
see the world under
Yeah.
me and
Yeah.
Feel that feeling of weightlessness.
That's
I
exciting.
loved it when I jumped out of the plane. I just felt like I said Jennifer Livingston Seagull.
Oh, I just read that book. You described that perfectly too. If you have not read Jonathan Livingston Seagull, it's a very odd book, but it's a very freedom-driven seagull.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Who knows how to live life and inspire others.
Yes.
That's Anne just embracing her inner seagull on the hot air balloon and skydiving.
That's awesome.
Great.
Well, Anne, thank you so much for being on. You're an inspiration
Yes.
to Kim and I. We're so glad that we got to meet you really at the beginning of our entrepreneurial journey together.
Oh, yeah.
You've been obviously a big supporter of us. We're obviously huge supporters of you. Congratulations to all your success. I mean, congratulations to this incredible movie. When you invited us, and I'd never been to a film festival. I didn't really know
We
what
didn't
to
even know
expect
it
with the
existed.
movie.
Yeah.
I just didn't know what the quality level is. This is a legit feature film.
This is real.
This is
Even
a film
the
that
movie poster
Yeah,
feels like a real.
this
like
is
a
something
real
we've been
movie.
telling people about it, and they're like, I can't wait when it goes onto streaming so we can watch it, because this is an
know.
awesome movie. So super congratulations to that. We do have a sign off, but I'd like to change our sign off a little bit to we're just getting started.
Oh,
So
instead of say full time to travel time.
Yeah, so what we'll, and we'd love for you to join. So we'll say, this is you've been listening to Full Time to Travel Time, and we're just getting started. So
Okay.
you
All
ready?
right.
1, 2, 3. Thank you for listening to
Full Time to Travel Time,
and we are
just
just
getting
getting started. Awesome.
That's a mouthful, but we did it.